You usually expect elite athletic performance to look, well, spectacular. I mean, picture Chloe Kim, the two-time U.S. snowboard gold medalist.
Oh.
She is, like, launching herself off this massive wall of ice, spinning thousands of degrees in the air, just completely defying gravity.
Right. It's the absolute pinnacle of physical achievement, captured in high definition for the entire world to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's thrilling, it's highly public, and it is undeniably glorious.
Yeah.
But now I want you to take that image of Chloe Kim landing a massive jump, and I want you to compare it to a group of corporate consultants.
Okay.
Yeah, consultants sitting in a windowless conference room, staring at a whiteboard and drinking way, way too much coffee.
I mean, that is quite the pivot. We have gone from the peak of Olympic adrenaline to what sounds like, honestly, a very stressful Tuesday afternoon.
It really does sound ridiculous.
Yes.
But unpacking the hidden connection between those two very different scenes is exactly what we're doing on today's deep dive.
Let's get into it.
So we are looking at a February 2026 piece from McKinsey & Company. It's titled, "The Olympics Mindset and the Discipline Behind Great Innovation." And the core argument here is that those caffeine-fueled consultants and that world-class snowboarder are essentially engaged in the exact same fundamental process.
Which is wild because it completely reorients how we are supposed to think about breakthroughs. I mean, we tend to view innovation as this, like, lightning bolt of unearned genius.
Right, exactly. My mind immediately goes to marathon running.
Oh, yeah, good analogy.
Because I always think about how everyone loved the glory of crossing the finish line. You get the medal, you get the little foil blanket, everyone is cheering for you.
The fun part.
Yeah, the fun part. But the marathon isn't actually won on race day. It's won during those grueling, totally invisible, freezing cold 5 a.m. training runs months before the actual event.
And if you don't do that training.
Race day is just going to be a disaster.
Precisely. And stepping into the corporate strategy side, this is exactly why so many organizations fail at innovation. They treat innovation like the marathon finish line.
They just want the medal.
Right. They treat it as a one-off event, like a ribbon-cutting ceremony or a grand dramatic reveal of a shiny new product. But true innovation is a daily, highly structured discipline.
Which is really the mission of our deep dive today.
Exactly. Our goal today is to show you the mechanics of how to build a bottom-up innovation engine that actually works day in and day out, long before the crowd ever starts cheering.
So to really understand this discipline in practice, we're going to transition away from the Athletic Olympics and look at McKinsey's literal Innovation Olympics, or the I.O., as they call it.
Right, their internal mechanism.
Yeah, and the sheer scale of this operation is frankly kind of mind-blowing when you get into the numbers, because it started out incredibly small. We're talking just a single European office back in 1988.
So a very localized experiment at first.
Totally. But then it went global in 1994. And if you fast forward to the most recent data from 2025, the scale is just enormous. Over 350 entries came in from more than 120 different offices.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking about more than 2,000 colleagues competing. But here is the stat that actually made me drop my highlighter.
Okay, let's hear it.
Since 2021, the winning entries from this process have delivered an estimated 2,700% return on investment.
That is a staggering number.
Right. Let's just pause there for a second, because in the stock market, an 8 or 10% annual return is considered a great year.
Exactly.
A 2,700% ROI sounds almost made up. Like, if I'm playing the skeptic here, a lot of companies have hackathons or suggestion boxes. If this is just an internal suggestion box, how on earth does that math actually work?
Well, the math works specifically because it is the furthest thing from a suggestion box.
Okay, how so?
Because a suggestion box is entirely passive, right?
Yeah.
It asks for ideas, but it has absolutely no mechanism to rigorously test those ideas against reality. The I.O., on the other hand, is strictly judged on one single metric, and that is impact.
Impact.
Yes. Not minor tweaks, not aesthetic improvements, and definitely not creativity just for the sake of creativity.
So you can't just pitch a fun idea and win because it looks cool in a slide deck.
Absolutely not. A fun idea that doesn't actively help clients will just not survive the first round.
Okay, that makes sense.
So getting back to that 2,700% ROI, it comes from the fact that this is a highly structured mechanism. It's designed to surface the best bottom-up ideas and immediately tie them to real-world utility.
Right.
Think about the denominator versus the numerator here. The denominator is the cost of the employee's time and the internal resources given to develop the idea.
Okay, so just paying for their time, basically.
Right. Right. But the return, the numerator, is the value created when a highly effective tool is suddenly deployed across dozens of multi-million-dollar client engagements. When you hit on something scalable, that multiplier effect is just astronomical.
Well, okay, so a suggestion box is basically just tossing a coin in a fountain, whereas this is like an intense crucible,
Exactly.
which honestly introduces a massive logistical problem. I mean, if
Yeah.
you have 350 plus entries coming in from 120 offices, how do you sift through all of that? How do you run that crucible without completely killing company morale or, accidentally tossing out a hidden gem of an idea?
Well, they operate on a core philosophy that I think is incredibly valuable for anyone to apply to their own projects. The mantra is basically cast a wide net with a narrow filter.
Cast a wide net with a narrow filter. Let's look at the wide net part first,
Yeah.
because the entries in 2025 were incredibly diverse.
Oh, they really were.
Yeah. Just among the 45 semifinalists, you had teams pitching ideas to map the geopolitical landscape, teams looking to improve internal communications coaching, and even teams focused on optimizing vehicle life cycles. I mean, they're looking literally everywhere.
And that wide net ensures a company isn't siloed. You are letting the 2,000 colleagues on the ground tell you where the actual friction points are rather than having executives just kind of guess from the top down.
Right, which never works anyway.
Right. But the real magic happens in how those diverse ideas evolve over time.
Yes, this part of the history was wild to me. The winning ideas have changed so much over the decades. Like back in the late 80s, an early IO winner had this big revolutionary idea of embedding bank branches into supermarkets.
Which is positively quaint by today's standards.
Totally quaint. Then you jump to 2013, and the winner was all about new tools for a concept called design to value. And then fast forward to 2025, and surprise, surprise, the entire competition is completely dominated by AI-themed entries.
It's a perfect snapshot of corporate history, really. The specific tactical ideas change radically depending on the era.
It totally reminds me of the evolution of fashion.
Oh, how do you mean?
Well, if you look at photos from 1988 versus 2013 versus today, the specific styles, the neon, the skinny jeans, the oversized blazers, they change completely.
Oh, definitely.
The shiny new things are always shifting. But if you talk to a master tailor, there's standard for what constitutes a perfectly fitted suit, like the structural integrity, the actual tailoring standards that remains rigidly the exact same, regardless of what decade it is.
That's a great way to put it. And taking that tailor analogy a step further, the tailoring standards in this process represent that narrow filter.
Right, the filter.
While the specific entries shift from supermarket banks to artificial intelligence, the filter never changes. All winners must demonstrate 3 non-negotiable criteria.
Okay, what are they?
Their ideas must be distinctive, they must be evidence-based, and they must have the potential to go to scale.
Distinctive, evidence-based, and scalable. If you miss even one of those, you are out.
You're out.
But wait, I actually want to push back on the evidence-based part.
Sure.
Because how does a, 20-something junior consultant actually prove their idea is evidence-based before the thing has even been built?
Well, they have to run micropilots.
Micropilots.
Yeah. They don't just write a theoretical white paper and hand it in. They find a single client or maybe just a single internal team, and they test the core thesis in a very small, highly controlled environment.
Oh, I see.
Then they gather the data from that micropilot and present the actual results as their evidence. So it forces the idea out of the theoretical realm immediately.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it also highlights that innovation isn't always about inventing the next massive world-changing paradigm shift, right?
Not at all.
The 2013 winner is actually the perfect example of this. You mentioned design to value was the winning entry, but what did that actually mean?
So design to value is essentially the process of reverse engineering a product based entirely on what features the consumer actually values and is willing to pay for, and then systematically cutting the rest.
Oh, like how car manufacturers figured out, we really don't care about having a CD player anymore.
Exactly.
But we will gladly pay extra for heated seats.
Precisely. Now, the 2013 winning team did not invent the concept of design to value. That was already a pretty well-established practice.
Oh, okay.
What they did was build new software tools to refine that existing concept and to automate those complex calculations across massive supply chains. And those specific tools, they're still in use today.
Wow.
So you don't always need to invent electricity to be an innovator. Sometimes applying a rigorous filter to an existing approach and just refining it to be more scalable is where the real magic happens.
So you don't have to be a mad scientist, you just have to be a really good mechanic making the engine run better.
Yes.
But here is where I think this gets highly counterintuitive. We have established that this is a grueling process to get an idea through this narrow filter. I mean, it requires endless whiteboards, late nights, running micropilots, all on top of your normal day job.
It's a lot of work.
So, how do you incentivize busy, overworked professionals to voluntarily participate in this?
Well, the psychology of the prize is perhaps the most profound shift we see in this whole model.
Because the prize structure has changed completely over the years.
It has.
In the early days of the IO, the typical prize for the winner was a paid weekend getaway for two.
Which sounds great.
Right, I'd take it. But looking at the history, while it was a really nice gesture, it ultimately served neither the firm nor the clients.
Nope.
So today, sure, there are medals, there are dinners, occasionally tickets to a major sporting event, but the real prize, the ultimate reward for the winning team, is a full year of time and internal resources to actually bring their innovation to life.
Which I just want to let that sink in for a moment.
I am. Because at first glance, taking away a luxury vacation where you do nothing but relax and replacing it with a full year of grueling work sounds like, well, a punishment.
It does sound a bit backwards.
Why is getting more work considered the ultimate prize? Wait, is this just about ownership? Like the difference between a company giving you a gift card to a restaurant as a bonus versus handing you the keys to run your own restaurant?
That is exactly the core of it. High performers aren't really motivated long-term by a fleeting extrinsic reward like a margarita on a beach.
Right.
I mean, you go, you drink it, and then you come back to the exact same job you left. But granting someone a full year of runway to build their own idea, that taps directly into intrinsic motivation.
The opportunity to put passion into practice.
Yes. When you give innovators the actual resources to build their idea, you are allowing them to build a legacy within the firm. They aren't just cogs in a machine anymore. They are the architects of the machine.
Wow.
That intrinsic drive, the deep personal satisfaction of bringing a vision to life, produces far better, much more sustainable corporate results than just handing out free treats.
And it is not just about the final product either. The process itself is a massive incentive because it is highly collaborative. The IO actively forces diverse teams to form across entirely different areas of the firm.
And this is a really crucial structural detail. The platform allows individuals who don't even have their own idea to look for an existing team that might need their specific expertise.
Oh, that's smart. So if you are like an absolute wizard with data, but you don't have a grand vision for a new product, you can just hop onto a team that has a brilliant vision, but desperately needs someone to crunch the numbers.
Exactly. And by doing so, you are actively expanding your personal network. You are breaking out of your daily silo. You are getting exposure to senior leaders across the globe that you never, ever would have interacted with otherwise. In fact, one of the authors of the piece includes a personal anecdote to really hammer this home. They were actually on a winning IO team back in 1997, working out of India.
Yes. Their presentation was on a truly pulse-pounding topic, acquisition-driven growth in Asia.
Thrilling stuff.
The author actually jokes about it, admitting that watching their presentation was probably not quite as thrilling as watching Chloe Kim land a 1260 on a snowboard.
Definitely not a spectator sport.
No. But the key takeaway for them was that the experience was a total immersion course in teamwork. It taught them how to take a general, hazy idea and refine it into something distinctive and actually applicable. And those lessons stayed with them for decades.
Which really proves the point, right? The real reward isn't the finish line. It is the transformation that occurs within the person who runs the race.
Okay, so we have the wide net, the narrow filter, the micro-pilots, the intrinsic motivation of ownership, and the teamwork.
Everything you need.
But what happens when the marathon is actually over? I mean, let's connect this reward, this year of time and resources, to the final output. If I am giving up a year of my life to build this, the final product better be world-changing.
Oh, absolutely.
What do these winning ideas actually look like when they hit the real world?
Well, this is where we see the mechanics behind that 2,700% ROI actually materialize. Let's look at the 2025 gold medalist. It is called McKinsey Intelligence.
Right, and the source refers to this as an agent-verse-powered tool.
Yes.
Which I have to say, what does that actually mean in practice? It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does sound very futuristic, but the mechanics are incredibly practical. Instead of just having one AI chatbot answering simple questions, an Agentverse deploys multiple specialized AI agents that actually interact with each other.
Like a whole team of digital workers.
Precisely. One agent might pull financial data from a database, another analyzes market trends, a third cross-references regulatory compliance, and a fourth drafts the final report. And all of this happens seamlessly in the background to help clients make incredibly complex decisions much, much faster. And is not just theoretical. Since winning, it has already been deployed in more than 15 major engagements across massive industries. We're talking life sciences, manufacturing, private equity.
A tool like that completely changes the speed of business for those clients.
It really does.
And the 2023 finalist is equally massive.
Yeah.
It was a tool known as the Strategic Growth Hunter. It's basically a self-serve, AI-enabled tool that helps clients identify completely untapped growth opportunities.
Yes.
And the scale of implementation here is just huge. It has already been applied by more than 100 clients.
So looking at both of these tools, McKinsey Intelligence and Strategic Growth Hunter, we can see the culmination of this entire bottom-up process.
It brings us right back to that Chloe Kim analogy from the beginning, really. And when talking about the Olympics, she said, I know it's going to be stressful, but it's also going to be great because she prepares year-round. She is constantly running, lifting, stretching. All of that invisible pain is exactly what allows her to achieve these effortless-looking, back-to-back 180-degree spins in the halfpipe.
And for these consultants, the invisible pain is the micropilots, the late-night teleconferences, the endless cups of coffee.
Exactly.
And the output, those highly complex AI tools deployed across hundreds of clients. That is their 1080 spin.
Strategic Growth Hunter is essentially the corporate equivalent of launching off a wall of ice and defying gravity.
It really is.
It is the spectacular public result of all that invisible caffeine-fueled training.
And the strategic genius behind all of this is that these winning tools transition the firm's position in the marketplace entirely. They move from being a one-off problem solver to being a continuous resource for their clients.
A continuous resource. Because
Definitely.
these aren't just like PDF reports that sit on a desk and gather dust.
No, not at all.
They are deeply embedded software tools that the clients use every single day to run their operations.
Which is the ultimate definition of innovation here. Innovation is a journey, not a destination. The results come from the process. The firm isn't just selling a clever idea, they're selling the result of a grueling, highly filtered discipline.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? I think the big takeaway is that great innovation, whether you're on a snowboard or in a boardroom, is rarely a sudden lightning bolt of unearned genius.
Never is.
It is a daily, bottom-up discipline. It requires casting a massive, wide net for ideas, but then running them through a ruthless, unchanging filter of distinctiveness, evidence, and scale.
Absolutely.
It requires rethinking your rewards, ditching the fleeting extrinsic treats in favor of the intrinsic fire of ownership. And ultimately, it is about committing to the invisible training over the final destination.
So think about a major goal or a significant innovation you are trying to achieve in your own work right now. Are you just waiting around for competition day, hoping a moment of brilliance will strike so you can perform? Or have you actually built a daily training regimen, the micropilots, the early mornings, the narrow filters for when absolutely no one is looking?
Because the spectacular 1080-degree spin just doesn't happen without the freezing 5 a.m. stretching. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this gave you a new lens on what it actually takes to build something great. Keep asking questions, keep refining your filters, and we invite you to keep exploring.